Woo-hoo-hoo. And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a special guest in the house today, Kevin D. Turner. And we are talking about a way cool topic today, which is what's in your network. And Kevin, before we get stuck in, can you please just introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll get talking.
Absolutely. And Gillian, thank you for having me. It's always a blast. We always have fun. We always learn something, and that's kind of cool. And today we learned a little bit about my camera is crazy. So at least my head is normal size now, and that's a good thing. My name's Kevin D. Turner. I'm managing partner with TNT Brand Strategist. I help companies and individuals, right, refine what value they bring to the table, kind of taking really what is normally what I call personal branding. That's where you throw everything in the mixer and you think people can understand it. They're going to figure it out. They can't. I refine that with that individual or that organization. So when they present, people know exactly what they do. And as they're building their relationships, when the time is right, they have people coming to them to buy. And so really that's what I do. And I love doing it. Been doing it throughout my whole career. So it's nice to find a place like LinkedIn where it all fits in.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we're talking about a network today and our networks, networking and having a network on LinkedIn and what that means and all the different things, the components and parts of it. And Kevin, you have a huge network. And before you're like 44K, isn't that like a diamond thing or something? Now we can call you Kevin Diamond Turner. It's kind of cool, kind of cool. And it's interesting because it's like, we all kind of want to have these big networks, but the thing is that there's with that comes great responsibility in that you have to figure out how do you manage it. And so it's kind of, you have to like go into it with your eyes open, because I'm already starting to feel the strain of having a large network. And I have less than 10,000. So I don't even know how you manage it. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of it today, is some of the things that we can do to start when maybe our network is just growing. So whatever tips you can provide us, that would be good.
I love that, because the word network is overused and misunderstood, right? What is it? What is it really, a network? And it's basically a collective of individuals who should know each other, right? Should be interacting with each other, that basically you can contact and they'll recognize you, right? So that you can move things forward within your life, your business, whatever that is. Networking is the building of that, right? How to approach people, how to get them in your camp, shall we say, so that they want to be part of that network. And so to me, it's always fascinating, because there's so many different ways you can interpret network and networking. That's how I look at them. And, LinkedIn itself is an incredible platform. It is probably the only wildly profitable social media out there. It makes tons of money. And when you go down to the roots of what is LinkedIn, it's all based on one theory of networking. And that's kind of cool, because that's what we're here to do, right? Is to network and to grow and expand and all those kind of things. It's based on the theory of 6 degrees of separation.
I love that.
And basically what that means is within 6 handshakes, you can meet anybody in the world. The more first level handshakes, potentially the less people you have to shake to get to that final destination, right? And so LinkedIn is based on these 6 degrees, these 6 handshakes. They actually own the patent for it, which I think is fantastic.
Wow.
They were challenged. Zuckerberg was trying to buy it and actually shut down LinkedIn because he didn't want them to have it. And technically, LinkedIn could be really bad and shut other social platforms down because they own that principle. And basically what it is when you join the network, you tell the network about people you know. And so they would connect then, or allow you to connect with them potentially. And from there, those people know other people. And basically you get greater exposure in that process. Now, LinkedIn's really smart. They thought, you know what? Yes, it's 6 handshakes. So how do we monetize those handshakes? How do we make money on that? And so what they decided to do is cut you off at 3rd level connections, right? So the other 3, if they're interested in you, have to pay LinkedIn to see you. And if you're interested in the other 3, you've got to pay LinkedIn to see that, right? The only difference is, again, the more 1st level contacts you have, potentially the less handshakes. LinkedIn realized that, and that's really why they cut it off at 3, to kind of establish a ground so they could launch products like Talent Solutions Recruiter, right? A recruiter wants access to everybody on LinkedIn. Don't stop me. I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to everybody, right? And you know, okay, I'll pay for that. And you know, that became a really big product. And so if you look at recruiters with the full recruiter system, they can basically see anybody in LinkedIn. That's what they pay for.
I did not know that. Yeah. I did not know that.
Sales Navigator. Same thing, right? That's businesses doing business. And you always do business with people, whether it's another business or not, right? People to people, business to business. That's what Sales Navigator is about. So if you want to break that where you can't see really past your 3rd level, if you want to break that and start making relationships with the rest of LinkedIn, that's what those tools do. And that's what actually pays for the platform. So that's those 2 tools constitute, I think, 65% of the $17 billion annual revenue.
Wow.
The cool thing about it, and we can talk about this another day, is if you can be the perfect product for 65% of the revenue stream for LinkedIn, lovely things happen to you. So part of that is that whole optimization and how do you do it and everything else. But you know, it's a component of what makes you successful on LinkedIn. But it is that network itself. And you know, I like to go on to LinkedIn. I do quite a bit of searches in looking for the right people for different opportunities. And you know, if you're going in, one of the things I love about LinkedIn, you can always know about how many people are on LinkedIn. If you go do a regular search, you don't have to put anything in the box. You can just click on it. It's going to take you to that filter page, right? And if you click people, it's going to tell you how many people are on LinkedIn. About, I think today it said 858 million people, 858 million profiles, right? What was interesting is it was 864 just a couple days ago, million profiles. And LinkedIn's on this thing about eliminating fakes. And so they're getting after them, and they're eliminating automation companies and everything else because they want us to get back to the normal networking or to pay them if we want to be super networkers, right? And so that's kind of how that system is built in. But I find that fascinating. And to me, you know, how do you get in there and how do you use that to your best interest? And in that same filter sets, you do have the option of filtering by connection level. We should all know our 1st level connections, right? At least the amount. Most people know the good portion or large portion of their 1st level connections. I've got 21,000 1st level connections. Of that, I've actually met, talked to, done business with, shook hands, met at a meeting, had conference calls with about 12,000 of them. So almost more than half of my 1st level connections I've actually had interactions with. I would say a large portion of the others have approached me to connect. And so, you know, it's interesting to go in there, but I think if you're out there and you're looking for opportunity, you know, the opportunity doesn't always sit at the people you already know. The opportunity for networking consists of those that those people know, that kind of that 2nd level, right? So if you actually go in and the first thing I love to do is if you go in and you take that connections tab and you click all 3. So I want my 1st, my 2nd, and my 3rd, right? It's going to give you a number now that's very different from the whole of LinkedIn. What that number is your reach, your potential reach. How many profiles can you reach within LinkedIn based on your network, and every network's going to be a little different, right? But based on your network, it's going to say this would be your potential reach. So if they didn't have constraints on posts, right, and you had the greatest post, it could go all the way out to that potential reach. And then it can't go any farther because they've got the gates at third level, right, to the most degree. And so unless those third levels start commenting. But that to me is fascinating to see, okay, what is my reach on LinkedIn? And, you know, when LinkedIn first rolled out, there was this, I guess, horsepower play, right? Everybody wanted to have the biggest networks. And there were people within the first couple of years of LinkedIn that maxed out that 30,000, right? And there was a reason that LinkedIn put that 30,000 level there. And in the old days, they used to actually tell you how many first level connections anybody had by visiting their profile. Now they just say 500 plus. That was to keep people from doing the horsepower play. What LinkedIn found out is that 30,000 connections, the way the math works, you should be able to access at least 1/4 of all of LinkedIn. Well, if you can reach 1/4 of all of LinkedIn, you might not buy Sales Navigator or Recruiter, right? And if you focused your 30,000 on quality, maybe on your industry, maybe really, really focus it, you might not need Sales Navigator or Talent Solutions at all, because you might get that 1/4 that's just the right segment because you spent time building your network to be very focused, right?
Right.
So there's value in how we kind of build those networks out. But I love that tab. And I always like going to, you know, that same tab where you're clicking the connection level, take the first level off, take the third level off, because I'm really not going to show you anything but kind of like profile anyway. Leave that second level, right? Those are the people that you have friends that know them, right? And there are other tabs within there. You can do location. Maybe I'm in job search, right? Or I'm in a sales search. I could then say, I want to focus on Dallas-Fort Worth. So I click that. And then I want to focus on, go to the next one, companies, right? I want to sell to Microsoft, or I want to get into Microsoft, Google, whatever it is. You select those companies, right? And then you can take it to another level, which is the all tab, right? The all filters. You can go all the way down. You can put keywords at the bottom. So what I could do is I could do a search if I wanted to target a particular industry, company, location, and title, because those are the people I want to network with for whatever my reason is, right? I can actually do that. It's going to give me the second level of all those people. And as I'm looking through that search process, on each one of them, it's going to tell me who can introduce me to them. That's really cool, because you've got this warm first level lead, hopefully, that you've been caring for, right? And you look at that and you go, oh, you know, I want to talk to Bob over here, and Jane and Alan and blah, 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 blah. There's 10 people here. I could pick the best 2 or 3 out of my first levels and ask them, hey, what can you tell me about Bob? Would you make an introduction, right? And you learn so much from that. Because sometimes they tell you, hey, Bob hates it there, and you don't want to work for that company, or you don't want to sell to that company. They don't pay their bills. You can learn a lot, which is really kind of cool. But it's that warm introduction to the next stage. So if you're using it in that sense to build that network out, that's really valuable. Now, disadvantage to a really, really, really focused network is one day, if your industry goes away, and back in what, 2021, some of them did, 2022, right? If you were in travel, you had to find something else to do. If your network was all travel, guess what you were not able to do, right? So sometimes a wide net gives you access to other things, right? It also will change your feed on LinkedIn, if you think about it. So that network is part of how LinkedIn decides what you're going to see, because it's going to be based on your connectivity. If it's real focused into an industry, you're going to get more industry news or more industry insights from people, right? If it's a more wide net, you're going to get it from all different areas. So kind of a pro and con to whether you choose to build it out really focused or really wide. I always tell people focus on quality, right? quality's always first. Good people, make connections with them. When you exchange that interchange, leave them, that wonderful voice message or video message. Find out if they want to talk. Start following them, start commenting on their posts, start getting them involved in yours, build that community, right? Build that relationship up so that when you are in a position where you may need them to help you and to introduce, you can, or if they come to you, you're able to help them in other ways as well. So I think, staying attached to that is important, but that's one of those reasons you want to know kind of why are you building this network? Why are you on LinkedIn, right?
Right.
Different reasons for different people. And, if you want to pivot at some point, you might start wanting to build that network into that industry, include it in, so that you can make that change at the right time. So, those are kind of some of those components. We were talking earlier about large and small, right? Small is easy to manage or easier to manage. LinkedIn doesn't really give us the best tools for that management, right?
No.
They're a little sloppy, but when I've done kind of an average of network size, right, to reach, because reach is important. Reach doesn't mean that not just that we can get to that point, but that point can get to us, right? So reach can be important. At 5,000 connections, and I've been doing this over about 10 years, collecting data on this, about 5,000 connections, you have access to about 1/12 of LinkedIn. So normally if somebody goes in and they do that little search, right, and they click down there to get reach, that's probably what they're going to see. They're going to see about 1/12 at 5,000. That's about 71 million profiles. That's pretty good. At 10K, it comes down to about 1/8, which is about 708 million profiles, right? At 20K, which I'm just a little above that, that's 1/5. So I'm already past the 6-degree separation, right? And that comes in at 171 million, somewhere in there. And then at 30K, you're going to get 1/4 of LinkedIn, again, based on your network. So these are kind of averages, and that's like 214 million, somewhere in there. So that's why people do build large networks. But with a large network comes management issues, right? If you really want to have connectivity with 30,000 people, you're probably not going to, right?
No.
I don't think it's possible, no matter how involved you are. But the other thing that we need to know about networking is there are people who don't want to be involved, right? They just want to be connected to you. And that's okay. And, people call them lurkers. They call them all sorts of things. I don't like that. I like learners is what I term those people as. They're there to learn, to kind of respect you, but they don't make any noise, right? They don't signal anything. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to get on a conference call, but they're there and they're still part of your network. You'll probably never change that component. So what do you need to focus on in that first level are people who are active, right? Who want to have an interchange. And then you really have to start deciding which ones are most important to get you to your goal, right? All these people that are important, it should be a mutual relationship. I mean, you both get benefit, right? You're not just taking, you're giving. And, that's a good piece of it. And I think, if you focus on that, it becomes more manageable, right? And we talked about earlier the messaging, right? Messaging is a terrible tool, right, for connectivity. It really is. But we do want to take our contacts and we do want to start having conversations with them. And that kind of direct messaging is the easiest thing for them to do. They're on the platform, right? They trust the platform so they can have that conversation with you. It begins there. But when your network gets larger, it gets more difficult. That thing runs like a Las Vegas slot machine, right? And the one-armed bandit, you pull it and it's spinning.
It's overwhelming.
It looks completely different than what it was. If you happen to peek at a message and you're thinking, I'll get back to that, right?
You don't.
I'll get back to it. Yeah, you never do. And it gets logged way down, somewhere down the line. And I think you had an experience where somebody thought you were snubbing them, right? Yeah.
Well, because I ignored
Yeah.
their video message, and
Yeah.
I'm sure what happened was I made this mental note of,
Yeah.
"Oh, that
You
was
need,
such a lovely video message. I will do a video message back, but right now I'm having coffee and I have a bad hair day.
yeah, yeah,
So I'll do it later when I'm all cleaned up." And then shiny object, and I forgot about it.
yeah.
But I felt terrible. I
Oh, yeah.
felt absolutely
And
terrible. And I
I
made
think
it right. I made it right. I
good.
sent an apology and I fessed up. I'm so sorry. But it you can get overwhelmed with all of a sudden you realize you didn't get back with somebody, or you didn't even read something that came in because you thought it was junk and it was
Mhm.
actually a really great invitation to do something.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I've
it's
learned if I
troublesome.
look at something and if I can't respond to it right then and there, I have learned on LinkedIn, you go immediately and save it as unread.
Brilliant.
And then 2 or 3 times a day, I will actually go back and look. There's a little filter up there, the 3 dots, click the 3 dots, select unread, and you'll just see your unreads.
Hmm.
That's saved me many a time now. So now it is a direct habit. And one thing that LinkedIn did to kind of help us stay coordinated, but it's worse, is in the old days you had to click that you've read it, or you had to respond for it to become unread. Now they give it a time frame. So if you open it up and you stay on it for, I think it's like 30 seconds or so, it becomes unread,
Oh,
even if you close it out. That was a
oh,
change they made. And so, because people couldn't figure out how to unread things, I think they need a whole redesign in that area. But, that's one of those things that you want to start paying attention to. As that network gets larger, you will get more demand in that area. And
yep,
the other thing about that is, as you get a larger network, it becomes more important to communicate on the platform in mass, right? So that's where writing content, sharing things, getting into audio events, doing lives, so that you can communicate with your network so they feel connected to you and you're not sitting at this kind of micro level, right? And so it
right.
does transition a little bit. Now, the other thing I find fascinating is LinkedIn has made, I guess about 5 years ago, they made this switch into followers, right? I can't remember exactly how long ago it was, but about getting followers, because what they had is they had all these self-proclaimed influencers who were so mad that LinkedIn cut them off at the 30,000. So LinkedIn could protect their revenue stream, right? They were so
Right.
mad about that. So LinkedIn said, you know what, we'll give you followers. And followers, you're technically not connected to. In a way, they're lightly connected to you, right? They're following you. You're not automatically following them. So you may not see anything that they do on LinkedIn. They're going to see what LinkedIn decides for them to see, or if they ring your bell, they might see a little bit more, right? So
Right.
it's almost a one-way flow to their advantage. Could not be a relationship or a connection, because that needs to be mutual, right?
Right.
So that's where followers are. And LinkedIn did that on purpose to keep people from maximizing the size of their network, so that they would have to buy things like Sales Navigator and Talent Solutions. So that's why LinkedIn made it the default for creator mode, right?
Mm.
You cannot leave it on there. I want invites. It has to be follow me first, right?
Right.
Most people figure it out if they really want to connect. But that's why LinkedIn did that, because LinkedIn wants us to have small networks. It's easier for them to manage. It's easier for them to figure out, how do I feed you in the news area, right? It's easier for them to figure out, how do I sell you new, programs that increase your reach, like boosting, things and whatnot in that sense. So they really want us to have smaller networks, more followers, maybe than our connections, right? And that's by plan. And that's why when you look at creator mode, you get all these goodies that you don't get on a regular account. I mean, you get the analytics, right? That is deeper than it was before. You get the fact you could do a newsletter. You get you could do live from there. I mean, there's all these things that are going on, and they're all rolling into creator mode, and not the regular premium account or the free accounts aren't getting them like that. They're here because LinkedIn wants to change how we're building that network. And so I always tell people, be aware of that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's about being aware, right? And making your own decisions, because one size on LinkedIn doesn't fit all. And that includes, if you're using new features, you're not using new features. Don't do things because you're told you have to. Don't do things because you think you must, right? Do things that work for you and your network on LinkedIn. And if you do that, you'll have a very connected network. And I think those are important things to think about.
And I like that phrase, connected network. I like that, because you want to envision, it's not just like you have a TV show and you're broadcasting out to people on LinkedIn. It's like you want to have a post that opens up a discussion, and you get opinions, and you get, people bringing just their questions to you. This is how we learn. So I think this is really good. So Kevin, for someone who maybe is like around that 5,000 mark, where you've been, really actively growing your LinkedIn network, you probably started off with just accepting a lot of connection requests to just get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So now, should those people go back and unconnect with people that maybe are not really like,
I think it depends. If you go back and you see that somebody's taken their picture off, or they put a company logo instead of their picture, or that their name absolutely changed and they're not who they started to be at the beginning, right? Or you notice they're having, they're doing bad things on LinkedIn, right? Or always getting thrown in jail, or they're harassing people. Those are the people you want to disconnect. People that are in your network, right? They're in that first level, that are quiet. Those still often are the learners. And you will be surprised at one day. And I've had, been on LinkedIn since 2005. I've had people that I connected with very early on that 10, 15 years later said, I want your help on doing this. Never had more than that conversation at the beginning when we connected, maybe a couple of messages back and forth. I didn't disconnect with them, well, luckily, right? And they came back.
Right.
So I don't suggest going in there and just clearing them out because they're not doing anything. You got to get to know, who's of value in there. And it's good to clear out the ones that are not, right? The ones that are doing things they shouldn't do. Those are the ones you should be looking at to kind of move on, right? And the same thing if you've sent out connection requests. If somebody hasn't accepted that request, people will tell you, oh, go ahead and delete those. I just say, let them go. Right. One day they might. I had a lady that I worked with who was with the Irish Heart Association, and she accepted my connection request 10 years later.
Oh my gosh.
That was in there.
Gosh. Oh my
Not
gosh.
everybody's a LinkedIn expert, or even, basic LinkedIn knowledgeable. Right. And so don't worry about them. Just leave them alone, because if you delete them, you don't get them back. It doesn't go back into your bucket, right? And you only get a certain amount. Like they start you out with 3,000. If you ever run out of that 3,000, if you've been good on LinkedIn, right, a good citizen, you can go back and you can ask for another 3,000. They'll give them to you.
Oh.
And, as long as you're not just burning them and making people upset, they're there. They will help you out. So it's not an end all, in that sense.
That's a good little tip. That's a good little tip. So we've got some comments. Okay, so we've got friends joining us, getting ready to learn from two of my favorite people. Who is that? Kevin D. Turner. Thank you both, Dr. Elizabeth. We have hello, Frederico. Hello, Kevin and Gillian. Good to connect today. Yay, yay. Hello, Kevin and Gillian. What a combo. Sarah Clay chiming in. We have Marcia getting my Gillian fix. Hello, Kevin D. Turner. And we have Jeff Young. Kevin is definitely a 44-carat resource. That's so true. And congratulations that you hit 44. You're going to have to keep an eye for when you get to 44444. I don't know, something, like streamers will go off.
That's not the number I worry about.
Yes, it's good. good. Hannah Morgan. Hey, Gillian Whitney and Kevin D. Turner. Woo-hoo-hoo. Jeff Young and Hannah Morgan. And see, this is the nice thing about lives is that people are connecting in the lives, which is another place to connect. And this is something that I think you did a post on. Hi, Sarah. I want to acknowledge Sarah's on the screen. Hello from Colorado. You have talked about before that is something to pay attention to. I think you did a post about this, Kevin. Maybe later you drop the
audio
link.
Events and it's moved into live. And it's that networking tab. It's like being in a group. If you're in a group, you could basically connect and DM anybody in that group. You're technically in a live group right now. Everybody on that networking tab is in the same live group. You can definitely reach out to them and connect with them. And interesting enough, if they're outside of your normal network, LinkedIn will give you a free email to make a connection to them.
Wow.
So, kind of neat.
So that's how you can bypass the third level.
Exactly.
Through these events.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge benefit. I'm glad LinkedIn's doing it because it's about networking, right? We're all here. We're all interested in the same kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And Sarah Clay is loving the shaking hands analogy because that is so true. So just to be clear, with premium, you can't go deeper, can you? Like with just regular LinkedIn premium beyond the sales navigator and the recruiter, can you get further than the 3 levels?
You can't get further than the 3 levels, but the amount of searches you can do is higher, right?
Okay.
So with premium, I think it's like 1,000 a week. With a free, it's 100 a week. So, if you hit those, they call that the commercial limits, right? If you hit the commercial limits, they'll send you a little note, no more searching until you get more limits back, right? And so that's the difference in that area. And it makes some sense. If you're paying a little more, you should get a little more, right? And so that's the thought behind it.
Yep. So here's a good question. I can't answer this, so we'll just give this one to Kevin. Are there good training tools to learn how to use Sales Navigator that you can share with us?
I know there's a lot of really good trainers for Sales Navigator. I know, I think Nigel does that. I think Richard.
That would be Nigel Cliff.
Does that. Who else? Who else does Navigator as a? I can't. Those are the 2 I can think of off the top of my head. There are many that do that and use it, and so you can usually tell by visiting their profile they're going to be talking about Navigator. And I know LinkedIn does have some LinkedIn learning courses on Navigator.
Maybe Teddy Burris. Teddy
Burris does. Yes, he does. Absolutely. So I think, that's probably the best route. I would always go to an individual to learn as opposed to the online learning method or trying to figure it out within LinkedIn because things don't always make sense in LinkedIn. So sometimes getting that expertise is really going to help. So, and if you don't have premium and you don't have LinkedIn learning, I think Jihan had a little post about this a couple of weeks ago. Go to the public library. And I forgot about that. For the cost of a public library card, you can get access to it. And so you can do all your LinkedIn learning. And supposedly LinkedIn can connect that to your account once you've accomplished your learnings. So that's a little more of a laborsome process, but it is possible. That's a great way to find out, how to use that. I've used it before and I've used Recruiter before. I would never consider myself an expert in either one of those. And they're changing, on a regular basis. So I would go definitely with somebody who does that all the time.
Absolutely. And Felipe says, great insight on your reach based on your network. Love seeing you both together on this live. I am always learning from you both. He's just wonderful. I love him. He's got a great network as well. So Kevin, what I would ask you is if you could have one sort of wish list that LinkedIn would give us to help us better with our managing our network, what would that be? What would that be?
I would love to see LinkedIn provide us feedback when we're reviewing our networks. Who is active, who is listening, shall we say, or learning as they go. So we don't take them out of the equation. Who's not, who is kind of deactivated on LinkedIn and when they're still part of our networks, I'd love them to give us the ability to analyze that and make some mass choices, right? So if you wanted to go back and really kind of clean up the network, I would think that would be a fantastic option. I would like to see a complete revamp of messaging so that it functions better, so that you've got tabs and you can organize people into different areas. You know, a little easier to do, you know, if they had the right tool. And I think the tool is a little medieval in that sense.
Yes. Like even just having an ability like in Outlook to flag a message so that, you know, I need to follow up or send them a little bit extra or something. Cause sometimes, you know, whatever. So yeah, those are good. Those are good. So, we've come to the end of our time together. It just goes so fast. It goes so fast. So,
so my apologies.
What? Oh no, you're great. You're great. Yeah, just like I could keep you an hour, honest, an hour. We could do a Kevin Turner marathon. You just provide so much wisdom. So, okay. So what's the tip of the day? What would you say to everybody out there? What's the tip of the day that we should be doing to make our network?
Tip of the day, networking always beats not working. No matter what you're looking for, right? If it's sales, if it's opportunities, if it's a new position, if you network constantly, even while you have all those things, you'll never have to look for them. They're going to find you. So networking always beats not working. Get after it. You know, that's where it all is made.
I love that. I love that. That's great. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on today, Kevin, and sharing your wisdom with us. And I'm looking forward to you coming back soon. And I know you are coming back soon, so that's exciting. And have a great day, everybody. Thank you much for joining us. And we'll see you back here next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Gillian. Y'all take care.